Happy Monday. Yafa, let's say hi. Let's show the world your haircut. Presenting Yafa. Oh my God. So in another life, Yafa, please. Yafa just got a haircut, courtesy of me. She looks like a boy. She's like a tomboy. But she just got a haircut. So I groom Yafa myself. Yafa. Okay, well, anyways, she wants to take a nap, so she's not here for this live. Okay. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I just wanted to show the people your fresh cut. Okay, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so happy Monday. Hope you have had an amazing weekend. I had a super amazing weekend. And quick update in the getting off of birth control story. Not that anyone cares, but I'm going to update you anyways. It's been amazing. I know that last week I had a really, really tough day because like the emotions and the hormones are all over the place. But ever since then, it's just been literally smooth sailing. So there's a lot that I want to talk to you about this week. There's some things. There's going to be some mini trainings that I'm going to have in these lives. Okay, I'm sorry. Just want to go. She want to go. Okay, hold on. Okay, bye. Sorry, she did not want to be part of the live. So tomorrow and this week, I'm going to be talking about your buyer picking your niche. There's a huge sort of, clarity that I got around describing positioning and niching that I know that everyone needs because everything starts with your buyer. Yes, you have you and your business and your vision and your brand, but like if you don't know who you're speaking to and you don't know how to get your buyer persona or your ideal customer or your ideal avatar, whatever you call it, down packed, then it's going to be very difficult. Then we'll be talking about your offer persona. So that's something that I kind of came up with where just as much as you need to know your buyer, you also need to know the details of your offer because a lot of us only know the offer in our heads. We have a hard time getting it out. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence and how it also plays out inside of your business. A lot of times when we are starting a business, and let me know if you can relate to this, and also rewind, limp pause. If you are watching this as a replay, hashtag IGA, so I know you're watching this as a replay. If you are here now live, I still can't see your comments. So hi Rika, hi Jasmine, hi Terry, another Terry, and hi Tanya, but I can't see your comments. I will see them later. So when you are starting a business, a lot of things that most people talk about is mindset. That is very important. Your mindset elevates as you grow to different levels in your business, as you build a team, as you hit different financial milestones, as you step out into new things. Mindset is definitely huge. But another thing that it's not as super popular when it comes to talking about your business is your level of emotional intelligence. This plays into dealing with customers, getting feedback. How do you feel and handle your doubt? How do you process when people copy your stuff? How do you process when customers aren't very happy? How do you not compare yourselves and the feelings that come with that? How do you handle being offended? How do you handle being angry? How do you handle being frustrated? So there's always the mental things that people help us in helping us shift our perspectives and seeing things differently, but then we also don't ever really talk about the emotional side of things. Those two things go hand in hand. Okay. And this is something that's so key in your growth and your journey when you are trying to build your business. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a story. This past week or so, I was speaking with one of my colleagues, someone who I admire and love very deeply. And, we were having some conversations about certain things. And I felt that one of the responses that she gave me was not the usual response that she would give me. It just seems like she kind of was very sort of like on a whim with the response, like just kind of like throwing, like this was kind of, we were talking about something pretty deep. And so her response was just kind of like super casual. Like it felt like it felt like she didn't listen or like read kind of what I wrote to respond in that way. So old Terry, old version of me, would usually keep, not communicate, would usually stifle, what I was feeling or what I was saying. One of the reasons being is because sometimes I was afraid, and let me know if you can relate in the comments, where you're afraid to kind of say things to people because you've always been misunderstood and what you say gets misconstrued. And so you just end up not saying anything. That was another, reason in the past why I never spoke up. And also I kind of just like had the, notion to sweep things under the rug. Just like, don't worry about it. Just like, oh, it's not a big deal. So let's sweep it under the rug. So it was very damaging to my ability to communicate, my ability to honor my feelings, as well as to grow in relationships with others, among many other things. And mind you, this is a business colleague who has turned friend. But I said to myself, well, how am I feeling and what's going to happen if I don't say anything? And I said, well, right now in this moment, I am feeling a little discouraged, a little disappointed, a little hurt. So, and I know that, but then I also could reflect and say, I know that she didn't mean it that way, but I'm also feeling challenged because I don't know how to respond or say something, because I don't want to put her on the defensive. I don't want to make her feel like what she was doing was wrong. I just don't know the words to express this. So, but I also don't want to sit with it, because if I do sit with it, what happens most of the time? We get resentment. We get resentful of the unsaid things that we don't say. So it was a lot. It was a lot to process and a lot to kind of sit with. So again, we're kind of taught the mental things, and I just kind of listened to my body and said, hey, what's going on? What do you want in this moment? And so my body could link to my mind and say, hey, today, Terry, right now is just not the moment for you to say something. We acknowledge that there is something that you want to say. We acknowledge that you're feeling disappointment and you're feeling this way. We acknowledge that you don't want to feel resentful, but right now isn't the best moment. Let's wait till you get to a moment of clarity. Let this emotion pass. And that way you can respond in a place of power instead of reacting from your disappointment. So I said, okay, you know what? That's good. Let's do that. And so I just kind of allowed myself to feel disappointed. And I was like, dang, I kind of just talked it out. I to myself and just gave myself the space to feel disappointment. And I said, hey, this kind of sucks. I wish and this is kind of I hope that's not what she means. Cause I'm just like, oh my gosh, I value our friendship. And woo, that was kind of a weird, out of left a field answer, but it's okay. I'm human. I have the right to feel disappointed. And guess what? I will figure out how to communicate with her. I just let myself process that disappointment. And it lasted literally all about 5 minutes. That was it. And then I moved on to the other things I was doing in the day. This is so key and so important because, again, if I don't process this disappointment, it can turn into resentment. It can turn into also me maybe reacting and then causing a situation to be worse than it was. So I just let time pass, and I honestly forgot about it until I went back to check my messages on something, and I saw that that was kind of still lingering. And then I just kind of breathed, and I said, what is it that I want to say? And I said, I want to tell her that I'm not mad at her. I'm not upset with her. I just how do I explain that? What I felt that you said was just you didn't really listen to what I was saying. You kind of just checked me off a list. It was kind of like a whim sort of response. And I was and I normally don't get that from you ever. So I'm kind of what is going on? And long story short, which is the favorite thing that most people like to say when they're telling a story, but it's never short. Sorry, I had to get that out. But long story short, I sent her a message and I just told her how I felt. And I made sure that I chose words that did not put her on the defensive, that did not attack her, did not make her feel a certain way. And just really talked about how I felt. I'm hey, I really love you and I love you so much. I'm kind of a little disappointed in the way that you, I'm feeling a little disappointed in the response that I got, because I just kind of feel I was being checked off a list. This is a pretty serious topic. And also too, I'm if I just feel if maybe I had the opportunity to sort of explain myself a little bit more, then you would kind of understand what it was I was saying, and then maybe you wouldn't, have offered, that sort of whimsy of a statement. And she sent me a message back and she was oh my gosh, that is in no shape or form what I was ever feeling. And basically it came down to the fact that she was I am so sorry. I just kind of saw the message, read it, and it did have the energy of just checking it off a list and just, saying it on a whim. And I apologize. That's definitely, it was in the middle of a rush that she responded. And saying, hey, oh my gosh, I did not mean that. And, to just be a little bit more intentional about her approach, which obviously we're not, we never know when's the right time to approach. But in that moment, she kind of was just checking a lot of things off a list, not really paying attention to what it was that was being said. And in that place, she can kind of, slow down and say, oh, maybe I need to slow down. Maybe I just need to be more intentional with what I'm saying, because, our words have power. In essence, what she learned was she told me it was different communication skills. But for me, I learned how to honor my disappointment and not to react in my disappointment. I learned how to respond in my disappointment. This is someone who I share the same space with as a coach and an entrepreneur, so someone who I have a relationship with. So if I reacted from my disappointment, or if I didn't say anything and let my resentment grow, this is someone I would have to see. And then there would be this energy of like resentment and like negativity that I created because I never allowed myself to honor that disappointment. Also, it created an opportunity for her to have some more self-awareness and perspective on her communication and how she communicates with other people. Yafa? No. Ma'am? 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 So it was an amazing learning experience. And Yafa, ma'am? And it was also a learning experience for me because, again, it allowed, sorry, they just like, the dogs, they just like literally want to go a little crazy. That's just what they do. So it allowed me to, again, process the disappointment, not react from the disappointment, to be able to respond from the disappointment. And it was so huge because it allowed me to expand my voice. It allowed me to grow in my communication. It allowed me to pause and find the words that would be able to articulate how I'm feeling without making someone else feel, a certain way. It was all on me. And it gave me more trust in my body. It gave me more trust in my emotions. It allowed me to feel safe within myself. But most importantly, the disappointment literally lasted only 5 minutes. But how many times for me, a lot of times in the past, disappointment turned into resentment. And so I'm feeling a type of way about someone, but I've forgot what they did to me, whatever, a long time ago. But the resentment is in my body because I gave the disappointment root to take root in my body. But life goes on and you forget, and you're kind of feeling like, why every time this person comes around, I'm not feeling it anymore. That it has so many unseen causes. So emotional intelligence is huge. There are so many things that we deal with when we grow a business that are going to offend us, that are going to make us upset, that are going to make us sad, but also processing your happiness and processing your excitement and emotions too. There's a roller coaster. And I talked about this today on my personal page, where excitement, if not processed as an emotion, has the tendency to sometimes turn into anxiety. So having emotional intelligence while you're going into the business allows you to maintain peace in the space in between. You're not going to be on the super low of the painful emotions, and you're not going to be so high on these high emotions that they become, super manic, and then all of a sudden they turn into anxiety. This is so important in your in your entrepreneur journey, but also you as a person. From someone who experienced, they diagnosed me as manic bipolar, not a diagnosis that I identified with, but I looked at it as helping me understand who I was chemically as a person and what was happening to me. I was someone that operated on extreme lows and extreme highs. It's exhausting. A lot of time people think the high winning milestones of achieving all these things and having all this happiness and excitement feels good. It's actually just as taxing on the body as being in the low state. So what I've learned over the years is just to find peace in the space in between. The peace in the middle, where it's I can be on the ebb and flow of life, right? Not the waves and the roller coaster. It doesn't have to be like that. So when my low emotions come, anger, disappointment, sadness, fear, grief, I process those. I give them the space to be exactly what they are, those emotions. And then when my excitement and when I'm going so crazy and I'm super excited and things are up there, I process that and I get it out. There is, so one of my good friends, Angie, anytime we get on the phone, we are electrified. And it's sometimes a little bit overwhelming because our energy is literally so connected that it's like a coffee rush. It's anytime we talk, it feels like a hit of caffeine. So I have to sometimes in the conversation be okay, Angie, we need to take a breath and we need to breathe this in, because we are literally creating worlds right now. We have to ease this in. So there's the opposite, the high, right? And processing that electricity and processing that emotion so that you can just stay right in the ebb and flow of the peaceful space in between. So it's so important because this is a part of how you embody the next level. How do you embody being an entrepreneur who has a lot of responsibilities? How do you mentally process that? But most importantly, how do you emotionally process it? Because a lot of times we process things in our minds, but we have not processed it in our bodies, in our emotions. Okay, and this is something that I am learning even more if you've been following my lives of like doing my embodiment journey of just really kind of tapping into my body and listening to my body. And I'm telling you, oh my gosh, the breakthroughs that happen when you can do that, the power that happens when you can do that. A lot of times people think that like confidence and like power and worth comes from like achieving things and feeling, great and amazing and all these accolades and everybody sees all the things that you do, but that's not really where it comes from. It comes from the trust that when you make a decision and no other help, and it's like just, your intuition tells you something, you act on it and you get the results. That's where your personal power comes from. When you're able to hold yourself through big emotions, when you're able to shift your mindset, when you're able to choose a new path, a new perspective, that's where your personal power comes from, among, a few other things. But for me, that's really where I've tapped into like my worth and my identity. So hopefully this has been something that is going to be very helpful for you, especially I know as a lot of people are wanting to feel the essence of creating a business that makes them feel purposeful and fulfilled. And that's it. So this has been a really good Monday. I literally just caught a Jigglypuff before this live, so I'm really excited because I love Jigglypuff. And I'm about to finish a lesson for my students in F2S. So if you aren't familiar with it, F2S is still in beta, which basically means that I get live feedback from my students about what's working or what's not working, and I update and change the course according to some of the feedback. So I am dropping a new lesson today, all about the niche and the buyer persona for my F2S people, and then I will be talking about it a little bit this week. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you have any thoughts on this, leave them in the comments. And if you also find that someone that you think would get a lot of value from this video, please invite them to the group and just tag them in the video. And by the grace of God, I will see you guys tomorrow.